The video you are about to watch is from an old woodworking magazine that I published during the years of 2003 to approximately 2006. This was a very unique magazine. It was purely video content and it was distributed on DVDs. The magazine ran for approximately 3.5 years, and then due to financial concerns, we simply had to terminate the magazine. We moved on to other things over the last roughly 15 years. However, there has been a request to resurrect this content, so I've gone through the trouble to get the equipment, the products, everything I needed in order to bring this content back to life to share with everyone. Here on this YouTube channel, we'll be putting up approximately 100 to 120 of the original stories that appeared in that magazine. The magazine was called Woodworking at Home Magazine, and it was truly one of a kind in the world. I really hope you enjoy these videos, and please tell your friends about them.
Hello, I'm Dave Reilly. If you remember in the last issue, we did a 4-leaf clover, and I hope you were able to do it and it came out all right for you. The tools we used were the Mallet Tools, but we didn't say much about the tools, so I think maybe in this issue we're going to just talk about tools, how to identify them, how they're used, what makes a good tool and what makes a bad tool. Now there's an awful lot of tools out there. The catalogs are full of them. The more you read about tools, the more confusing it seems to be. But they're really fairly straightforward, a fairly simple way of identifying them and the different types and so on. There's 3 types of tools really to start. There is the knife, there's the gouges, and there's the chisels. The carving knife here we have is the basic knife. This is pretty much the standard carving knife that you would be using for all types of carving, primarily whittling. Now that I've shown it to you, I'll tell you that you don't use this knife very often in relief carving. You do some, but the other types of tools that I'm going to show you are the ones that you're going to be using most. The next type of tools are the palm tools. For obvious reasons, they're held in the palm of their hand. They come with different types of handles. This straight handle is very comfortable. You hold it this way. You can also hold these somewhat as a pencil for very fine, very detailed work. The other type is a more ergonomic tool, very, very comfortable in your hand. These are very, very popular. And then the third type of handle on these is the mushroom. This is pretty much of a holdover from the wood engraving days, and I don't think they're really quite as popular. The important thing about a tool handle is it should feel good in your hand. Regardless of the quality of the tool, if it doesn't fit your hand, if it doesn't feel good in your hand, it may not be the correct tool for you. Now these are the mallet tools, the whole range. They come in different shapes, sizes, widths, and so on. They are numbered. There is a standard numbering system for tools. It's something that's of interest. It's not necessary or very important to know, but it is interesting. So if you are interested, let us know, and I think we can do something about a program for this for a future issue. The identifying factors of a tool is its shape. This is the shape here, whether it's curved or flat or angled. The width of the tool is the second identifying factor. And then the other is the longitudinal shape, whether it's a straight tool, whether it's curved, whether it has a short bend in it, and so forth. These are the parts of the tool. This is the blade, the forward part. Between that and the handle is the shank. This projection here, this enlarged area, is called the shoulder. This prevents the tool from being driven back into the handle. And then the part that goes inside the handle is called the tang. We won't take a handle off today to show you. And then there is the handle and a ferrule to keep the handle from splitting, and it also is a point where the shoulder can butt up against the handle. It's important to remember, though, that the steel in carving tools is not high-speed steel that you find in machinist tool bits and so on. This is high carbon steel. It's much easier to manufacture in high carbon steel, but it also has to be handled a little more carefully as far as the grinding and the sharpening is concerned. The factors that influence how well your tool is going to hold its edge is one, of course, the quality of the steel and the way it's been sharpened and the way it's been ground. The other factor is also the technique that you use for your cutting. If you do a lot of scraping, if you plunge in a cut and then try to lift and pry out your chips, you're going to destroy the front edge and the cutting edge of your tool. So even if you have a good tool, it may not hold its edge depending upon how well you have ground it and the way that you use that tool. There are three different cross sections of the tools. There is the straight, there is curved, and there are the angled tools. The first type are the chisels. They come in two different types. There is the straight chisel, similar to a carpenter's chisel, and then we have the skew chisel, where the blade is angled back about 30 degrees on the average. They're both very useful. The skew chisel is very nice for getting into tight corners. You can move in very closely into small corners and so on. These generally will have a doubled bevel, a bevel on both sides of the blade, whereas the straight chisel, it can come both double beveled and single beveled. I prefer a single bevel. I find it much more versatile. Now, these are the curved tools referred to as gouges. Now, the gouges come in a variety of shapes and curves, from a very flat curve to a medium curve, all the way through into a very deep curve. Now, these curves are all a semicircle, except for the very, very deep ones, such as this, where it's more U-shaped and the edges are come up fairly straight. In the very small size, of about 1/8 of an inch or smaller, in the trade these are referred to as veiners. If it's much over 1/8 of an inch, they're referred to as fluters. The next tool is the angle tools, which are V-tools and are also called parting tools. The V-tools come in three angles, a 45, a 60, and a 90 degree. I recommend for your first tool anyway, a 60 degree. It seems to be the most versatile. All right, the last type of tools are the macaroni tools. There are the long bent, there are short bent, there are front bent, fishtail, and there's the dog leg. First type is what's called a macaroni. This is a U-shaped tool with straight sides. The next type is the long bent tool. As you can see, how the name is, it has a long bend to it. It's very useful for getting to shallower areas. The next type is much deeper. This is a short bend. And this is for getting into very deep areas. All of these come in different widths. So you have the whole range of tools. It's just the longitudinal shape that is going to be the same. Then there is the back bent. This tool goes in the opposite direction, where the carving is, you go down this way with it. And then there is the fishtail. All of these names are pretty obvious as to where they get their names. This is a very useful tool for getting into small areas. Your handles come in different sizes and shapes. Here we have a round one, octagonal, straight. These have tapers. Very frequently, the carvers will make them out of different colored woods and different shapes. It does help in their identification. In my case, I take a lot of my tools and I write the actual tool number on it. It helps me to locate a particular type of tool when I have a number of 25, 30, or 40 tools out on my workbench when I'm doing a carving. Now, the important thing about a tool is that it should feel good in your hand. If you have large hands, you may prefer to have a larger tool. I like the octagonal handles the best, because the tool won't roll on the bench. and I feel that I get a better grip. But this is strictly your own preference. Every carver has his style that it suits him the best. Don't be afraid to make any changes on your tools. If you have a tool that has a very short body, and adding a longer handle to it might improve its usefulness. And in fact, an old tool that's worn way down could be rejuvenated by having a nice long handle. You can make modifications. In this case, I have taken cord and wrapped around the tool. It's nice for, I can hold it and do close work on whittling or any hand work. You can also actually modify the tool itself. And here I've heated it and put a little back bend in it so that I can use it more comfortably upside down. So don't be afraid to change. Consider your tools simply as a work in progress, and they can be modified for your particular needs. Now that we've discussed the shapes, sizes, and the characteristics of tools, it's about time we learn how to actually use them. Now, to hold a tool, this being the mallet tool, you hold the handle as you would a screwdriver. With the other hand, you hold the blade and the shank, and keeping your thumb on the side of the tool. It's important to keep that thumb on the side. Without that, no matter how hard you hold the tool, it still will move in your hand. But soon as you put your thumb on the side, that is nice and solid. Now, I teach what I refer to as a three-point system. You should always, or must have, except with only a few exceptions, the tool held with 3 points of contact. One hand is 1 point. This hand is the second point. The third point would be your wrist, your arm, some other part of your arm and hand on the wood. So now everything is well supported. The important thing now is that as you carve, you pivot your arm or your hand to produce the cut. Now, it's important to remember that as you are doing this, if the tool is moving, your arm or hand that is doing the support is stationary, and you just pivot. If you have to move to a different location, stop the cutting, move, and continue the cutting. You never have both the cutting and the arm moving at the same time. If you do that, you're liable to lose control and you slip. This way, you have complete control. Now, if you're new to carving or have done a lot of carving, you realize that you have to get your hand and your muscles all in condition to do this work. Now is the time to learn to carve with the left hand as well. This is a great time saver. Many a time you can't reach an area of your carving without coming in from the left. You either have the choice of picking up the tools or in the carving, turning it around and continuing your carving. By using the left hand, you can go all the way around a carving. Now that you're at the top, you can change your hand, and now you can continue coming the rest of the way around. It's a great time saver. Saves a lot of walking, for one thing, and it gives you complete control over what you're doing. Now, I have been showing you work with just my hand and using hand and arm pressure alone. These are mallet tools. You use a mallet for the heavier work. The effect is the same. You support your hand on your work, holding the tool with a thumb on the side of the handle. This is the exception where you don't have 3 points of contact. And then simply drive the tool with the mallet. Now you can come back and you can also change hands and drive it with the left hand. Don't think of the mallet as a heavy, gross type of tool. It's a very, very precise tool. You can do very small, very precise work. Now think of your tools as form tools, and you can use them as such, Now to make a curve, you can plunge straight down in, and just by rotating the tool, you can make a very nice curved cut. As we mentioned before, these are actually a semicircle. So if you continue all the way around, you'll have a very nice circle. Now, of course, no one is going to have enough tools to have curves for every possible need. So you can adjust the curves as necessary. Here again, I plunge in, but I leave the leading edge slightly out of the wood, and I can just, as I call, run a curve, make a curve that follows the exact radius of this tool. However, by slightly twisting the tool as I go, I can now modify that curve and make virtually an infinite number of curves within a certain range to fit whatever need I have. This is the number 3, and I'm getting down to just about to the limit of what I can do with this. It's very difficult, and in some cases impossible, to try to make this curve larger than the radius. It just doesn't want to do it well. But you can make a number of curves within a certain range, depending upon the tool, that are smaller. Again, using your carving tool as a form tool, you can use them in the upside down. They're very handy now if you have to round over a surface. You already have a curve. Occasionally you may find that the curve just matches one of your tools, so that it's a ready tool. So again, remember your tools are form tools, and you can use them as such, and they can be very, very useful that way. That completes our discussion of the carving tools for this issue. I hope we've answered some of your questions. If there's other things that you would like us to cover, please email us and we'll see what we can do. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next issue. I'm Dave Reilly.
I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you truly enjoyed it, please help us share this information with the rest of the communities. Please hit the subscribe button, give us a big thumbs up, and be sure to tell your friends about this channel. Thanks again for watching.